Terraria meets Edge of Space, a description that doesn't quite make sense, and seems to imply that the game in question, namely Edge of Space, has a similar flow and structure to Terraria. This is a lie. Sure, they both operate on a 2D plane and have the same general formula: mine, fight, build, upgrade, but the similarities end there. Please bear in mind that this game is in early access, and so the following review might be invalidated by the time of the next big update. With that said, let's get this review underway. As I said earlier, the gameplay uses the same Terraria formula, however it is much more convoluted with the addition of RPG-esque elements and a lack of easy to follow material progression. After finishing the brief tutorial, the player is teleported to a randomly generated world consisting of floating islands, with instant access to the main mining tool from the get-go. The problem being that there is no slow ease into the material progression like in Terraria, where the player can easily find lead or some material better than the starting set on the surface with which they can upgrade their tools. Instead, in the Edge of Space, useful materials are only found lower down, with the surface covered in mostly useless biological fluff, which will only be useful far later down the line, and will undoubtedly clutter up your inventory. I say materials, but in reality, there are only 3 resources you will find useful in the earlier half of your playthrough: aluminium, biomass, and uranium. However, things start getting more interesting when you gain access to the refinery and recombiner, and have the ability to combine and refine resources into more complex ones. The lower down you venture, the better items you will find. However, the game prevents the player from doing this right away by implementing an increasing radiation level, meaning that he must first upgrade his radiation rank before descending. The game has RPG elements, but these are light at best. You can gain experience in different fields from the consumable experience item drops from enemies. The fact that experience is dropped in a physical form means that you can more easily visualize how much grinding you've done through how cluttered your inventory has become. To gain the experience, the player must equip the experience drop and activate it. I found this process to be tedious, as each different experience drop must be individually equipped and then activated by left clicking, meaning that it takes some time to use up all the experience drops. This could have easily been improved by adding a function to activate the node from the inventory rather than having to equip it. So now you might be asking, why on earth would I want to level up in a field? Here, Edge of Space introduces a new mechanic. Each field unlocks new recipes, allowing the player access to more powerful items. Then, there are upgrade centers randomly placed in each layer of the world. Activating one will upgrade a core stat, which cannot be leveled up in the usual fashion from drops from enemies. The first upgrade centers are necessary for delving further down, as they upgrade your radiation stat. However, this system is nowhere near as straightforward as the Terraria one, as players might easily miss the centers and end up being frustrated and not being able to descend any further. Combat has a nice but repetitive feel to it due to the lack of weapon variations and enemy attacks. Long story short, enemies run at you, you fly around and shoot them. You'll end up having to go actively searching for enemies, as the experience drops are needed to progress. Enemies are most easily found on the surface, which I find to damage the experience, as it necessitates the player having to stop mining for resources to gain experience, and vice versa, instead of it being a mutually linked system like in Terraria, where going deeper will yield harder enemies and better drops. The game's in beta, so I won't judge too harshly on the artwork. Unlike Terraria's bright tones and Minecraft-esque pixel art, Edge of Space has a dark theme and detailed artwork. Make of this what you will. I personally didn't like this aesthetic choice. The destruction markers for the space pickaxe, also known as a mining laser, are somewhat out of place with their bright colors and low-res blocks. This is very visually unattractive at first, but you can get used to it after a while. Let me preface this section by saying that I am terrible at music and have no music taste whatsoever, so take the following with a pinch of salt. The soundtrack and sounds are also similarly different to Terraria. Edge of Space opts for a more melancholy soundtrack, reminding the player of the loneliness of space. When the music isn't playing, there is folly, intermitted by wails from the inhabitants of the planet. Make of the sound what you will. I personally didn't like it. All in all, I feel this game has great potential, and you should really pick it up, if you have the cash to spare. I find it is kind of out of place the fact that this game is advertised as Terraria meets Edge of Space, as it really has very few links to Terraria's gameplay. In fact, I believe this advertising choice will negatively affect the game's sales, as it attracts the audience of Terraria, yet provides them with an experience completely unlike it.